check, 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need, get over the fear, and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with podcast number 160. Today we have 5 questions sent in to support@bsffacademy.com, and we're going to try to answer them. Hopefully, the previous podcasts that you've listened to, they've been helpful. Let me know if there's things that you need me to do for you, and we'll be glad to accommodate that if at all possible. Before we start the questions, we have some housekeeping to do. Remember that this month you must market. A lot of you won't, because you'll think it's a slow period of time. Let me tell you, if someone wants to get out of their car in the rain to buy a car, that car lot salesperson absolutely know they're going to sell a car, because people just don't do it. Same thing happens in our business. If someone calls you this month and says, I have a house to sell, they want to sell it. They're not looky-loos. They're interested in selling it. A lot of us will not market this month. We'll wait. Those that will market will reap the rewards of those that are waiting. January is always the best month for buying houses, but you must prime January. Let me say that one more time. January is always the best month to buy houses, but you must prime it with marketing. So if you're wise, you will continue to market. If you're not wise, you will stop and let somebody else buy the house that you should have. Second thing, the Academy is open. Yes, again, it is open. It's a 1-year program, one-on-one. It costs $49.97 to begin and $5,000 from your first transaction. However, it's a 12-month process. And again, one-on-one, and we teach you all kinds of things about real estate investing the way we buy it. And we buy a bucket load of houses. So if you're at all interested, let us know. Go to the buysellfixflip.com. You'll see the coaching tab up on top. Fill out the form. We'll get a hold of you. I want to have a conversation with you before you enroll to make sure that you're a fit for the program. We don't accept everybody because it is a lengthy program and it's a lot of conversation between us and you. And we want to make sure that we're a fit. If we're not a fit, we're going to let you know as politely as possible. And so you can find the coach that fits you. Here we go. Question number 1. Can you please recommend the best performer from the options available on yellowletters.com for the large text postcard? I can. Now, keep in mind, all of those postcards at yellowletters.com are ones that I have used in the past. And so they're an evolution for me. And I want you to know that the postcard that I use is not there. So the question was, of the ones that are there, which one would you use? I would use postcard number 5. But here's what I want you to do. Because I know that the postcard that I personally use currently is not available on the yellowletters.com website. I want you to call Yellow Letters if you're at all interested and let them know that you want Mike's personal postcard. Now they're going to come to me and they say, Mike, did you tell everybody on your podcast that they could do that? And I'm going to say absolutely, because I want everybody out there to have as much opportunity as they can by using the best products available to them. So you just tell them I want Mike's personal postcard. They'll confirm it with me, and that will get you the most number of calls. So again, if you don't want to use my postcard, it's investor postcard number 5. However, I would highly suggest that you use my personal postcard. Question number 2. Can you explain the difference between voluntary and involuntary liens? I can. So here's a voluntary lien, something that you knew and agreed to. So if you're going to take a mortgage out or a loan out on your property, you're agreeing to place a lien against that property as collateral for that mortgage or that note or that loan. That's an example of a voluntary lien. An involuntary lien is something that you didn't authorize directly to be placed as a lien against a piece of property. So what kind of things fall into the involuntary lien status? They would be things like mechanics liens, child support liens, tax liens, anything that is against your person, that because you own real property then attaches to all of your real property. Now, this question is probably geared to more towards subject to investing, which we teach you extensively in the coaching program. Subject to investing is when you buy a house, and rather than paying off the loans or we'll call them the voluntary or involuntary liens against the property, you're taking the property subject to those encumbrances to the property. So if I agreed to buy a house from a seller and they owed $100,000 that was made up of $80,000 mortgage to a bank, made up of a $5,000 mechanics lien, $3,000 in back taxes, and other personal liens that attach to the property, then I would buy it subject to all of those liens. And when I resold it to my end user, I would extinguish those liens with my end buyer's money. So when they give me the $150,000 or the $170,000 that I would charge them for the same piece of property, I'm going to take the $100,000 that they give me, and I'm going to pay off those liens that I took subject to when I purchased the property originally, and I'm going to keep the balance minus the closing fees and the closing costs. It's a great way for those of you that have limited resource to buy property. Now, you can't always buy property subject to the voluntary and involuntary liens, but if you can, you should. And there's inside of the academy that we have 17 objection handlers. So if someone tells you they don't want to, there's 17 objections. We've only been able to come up with 17. And in fact, when you go through the academy, you're going to learn that it's in the best interest of the seller who has a mortgage or who has involuntary liens on a property. It's in their best interest to go ahead and sell you that property without extinguishing those at your purchase and extinguishing those at your resale. Great question. Question number 3. If there are liens on a property that the seller didn't tell you about, do you kick the deal? It's a great question. Here's when you kick the deal and here's when you don't kick the deal. But you must do this in all cases. So what I'm here as an example, let's assume I have that $100,000 house and they didn't realize, even though it's in my presentation that I learned at the academy, they didn't realize that the child support arrearage would attach to the real property. So they owed child support, let's say of $30,000 for some children that they're behind in the payments. Therefore, the county placed a lien and it's affecting the sale of that property. They're selling it to me for $100,000. They didn't take in consideration of the $30,000, so they actually are encumbered on that property to $130,000. Should I kick the deal because they owe more or they're obligated to pay more than what my purchase price is? So the simple answer is this: you must do this at all times. You have an agreement and they have an agreement. So that agreement works both ways. You have an agreement to perform, they have an agreement to perform. If they agreed to sell you the house for $100,000, they're obligated to sell the house to you for $100,000. So you must ask them, at least ask them, if they're capable of bringing in the $30,000 to cover the child support. You would be surprised how many people understand it. You should not use your own understanding or affect what they may be willing to do, because maybe you wouldn't be willing to do it if you were in their shoes. So you must ask them, are you capable of bringing in that $30,000? If they are, then you have a regular transaction that you're just going to buy. They're just bringing money to the table. A lot of people bring money to the table to close because they've over-encumbered their property one way or the other, and they're selling it. We just have to know how to negotiate them bringing that in, and that's something we teach in the academy. So absolutely. Now, but here's another example. I've asked the seller, can you bring in the $30,000? And they say, heck no. I didn't realize my child support would attach. Well, then we really have to look at some numbers now. The first number we want to look at is, if I paid $30,000 more, am I still making a considerable amount of money, and am I still making my minimum on that transaction? So let's assume for a second that my minimum on a transaction is $50,000. And I have an agreement to buy this house for $100,000. But the house is worth $170,000. Well, in that case, I don't have any room to put another $30,000 on the sales price and still make my $50,000. Can't do it. It doesn't fit. I've got to kick the deal. But what if the house is worth $250,000? I'm buying it for $100,000. The seller owes another $30,000, so my purchase price has to go up to another $30,000. They can't bring money to the table to pay it down. I'm not going to kick the deal then because I have a $120,000 spread, and I know my closing costs and my resale costs aren't going to gobble up $120,000, and I know my $50,000 is absolutely protected in this case, so I'm just going to increase my purchase price. Now, I'm not going to do that willingly without first asking them, can they bring money to the table? Keep in mind, every dollar that they bring to the table that you're willing to assume as responsibility on your purchase is a dollar extra for you. So you have to ask the question. Great question to ask on the podcast, though.
Thanks for listening to Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip. We'll be right back. Are you running out of leads? It's time you tried Yellow Letters at yellowletters.com. Get motivated seller leads through yellow letters, postcards, zip letters, typed professional letters, greeting cards, door hangers, and business cards. Yellow Letters is a full-service marketing company created with your success in mind. Get the personal attention you need to get your direct mail campaign started and get in touch at yellowletters.com.
And we are back in 3, 2, 1.
Question number 4. What is the best way to find good escrow and closing companies? Oh my goodness, if anybody knew that answer, please let me know. But here's what I have found is the easiest way. It may not be the best way, but it's the easiest way. We're going to get a BPO. So prior to opening up escrow, we're going to order the BPO from a local marketplace real estate professional. So it's not going to be, they don't live in Texas and the house is in New York and they're doing a BPO on it. They can't do that. They live in the area that they can do a BPO in, or what I need a BPO in, because they're, driving to the house and taking pictures and looking at the inside and doing all their stuff. I'm going to ask them, that real estate professional who is in the business of selling houses in that local marketplace, I'm going to ask them who they use. Who do you use? Well, I use XYZ company. Great. How long have you used them? I've used them for 7 years now. How do you feel they work? I think they work great. That's why I've used them for 7 years. Can I get your contacts information so I contact them? I need to open up this closing. Yes, their name's John Doe, and this is their phone number, 555-1212. Pretty simple. Referral base. I'm going to call John Doe. I'm going to say, hey, Mary Jane over here at Century 21 said you were the best escrow company in the world. I need a closing that opened up. Oh, yeah, we do that, blah, 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 blah. That's as easy as it is. Now, it may not be the best way. It's the easiest way. Okay? Because you're always going to get a BPO done. If you don't get a BPO done, you're foolish. It's $150 at the most. $150 to determine if you know what you know, or what you think you know. Great, $150, okay? Think about it. You're going to go out there and you're going to buy a used car, and you're going to spend, it's a Bentley, it's a 2015 Bentley, and gosh, it almost seems like old now that I'm calling my Bentley 2015 because it's almost 2016. But it's a 2000 Bentley, it has 12,000 miles on it, and you can buy it for $100,000. But you don't know if it's worth $100,000. Would it be worth it for you to pay a mechanic, pay an auto dealer, a price person who could give you an idea of what's wrong with it, what's it's in its current state, what its value is? Because you're going to lay out $100,000 on this Bentley. Wouldn't you want that for $150? I would. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. You always have to have a check and balance system. Okay? You're not right all the time. You can't believe that you're going to be right all the time. Now, your ego may be greater than mine, and I have a pretty good ego, but I know I'm not right all the time. I may fight for me being wrong and right all the time, but I know I'm not right all the time. So the $150 is worth the clarification on whether or not we have an opportunity. And through that clarification, those people that did that for us, we can find our closing company. It's the easiest, may not be the best. Question number 5. When looking for the right escrow and closing companies, what questions do you ask them? What information do you try to find out? That's a great question, and we cover that in the Academy. But I'm going to give you some hints. And if you're like me, and you're probably not going to pay cash for all of your transactions. So if you're like me, you're going to buy houses subject to the existing loan, involuntary and voluntary liens. You're going to buy houses with seller financing, either wraps or juniors or installment sales. You may buy houses with a combination of wraps, juniors, installment sales, and voluntary, involuntary liens. You may buy properties where we're doing subordinated deeds with the seller. We're doing exchangeable collateral inside the agreement or the note. And you may pay cash for a house. And all of those things are okay. Here's what I don't do. And I know there's some people out there that really preach it, and I appreciate them preaching it because we can't all preach the same thing. We won't ever learn anything. There's some people out there that preach like lease options or options themselves. Well, like I say, you got it. Everybody has to have something that they preach. But I buy it subject to the existing voluntary and involuntary liens, seller financing, either wraps, juniors, installment sales. It could be a subordinated deed. It could be exchangeable collateral. There's all kinds of things when you go through the Academy that you're going to learn. So here, what questions do you ask your escrow closing company? I think what's really important is, one, you have to find one that's us friendly, that likes the one-eyed people with 4 ears kind of thing. And not everybody's going to like us. That's okay. That's all right. I'm okay with that. And, most of us are conforming people. We have conforming personalities. We do things averagely, what the average person does. Well, as an investor, we really don't do average. We very well anyway. Who wants to be, average? No one. Well, at least not in the real estate investment world. So we do things a little different than average. So we have to find someone who's investor friendly. So one of the questions I'm going to ask my closing company or my closing attorney, I'm going to ask them to define what subject to investing is. You will be surprised when asked that question how many people don't know the answer to it. You'll be surprised if you ask a lot of investors and how many of those won't know the answer to it. But you better find the escrow closing company that knows the answer to the question, or they can't do your sub-twos. Maybe they know the answer to the question, but they don't do sub-twos, and you'll find that a lot too. Maybe you're not asking the right question, and so they'll say, no, I don't know what that is, or I can't explain it, and I don't do it. But if you ask them correctly, and during the Academy going through that, you'll find out how to ask them. Maybe you're asking the wrong question, so they can't answer it correctly. So that's one of the questions is, do you do sub-twos? One of the questions is, on a short sale, what short sale is when the borrower, what we're going to call the seller, is over encumbered, and they have a mortgage, and they have a hardship. So they're out of work. Something's happened to them where their finances have changed sufficient enough that the lender can step in and do a short sale, which is a reduction of principal balance on a mortgage that causes the property to be sold to somebody else, like us, or a retail buyer or something like that. Well, one of the questions I want to ask my closing company or my escrow company is, in a case where we're buying a short sale. So the underlying lender has to reduce their principal balance to cause the house to be sold to us. What is your obligation to that underlying lender if you know I'm reselling the house for profit? Now, you're going to get all kinds of answers to that question. And the answers that you receive from that question will tell you if, in fact, you should hire that person. Here's another question you're going to ask. Do you orchestrate contracts for or land contracts, contracts for deeds, performance contracts? And all three of those things are the same. They're just called different things in different states. So land contracts, performance contracts, contracts for deeds. Do you orchestrate those? Do you put those together? If they answer all of your other questions correctly, but they don't answer that question correctly, that's just a little itty bitty hiccup, because you're going to find that a lot of national escrow title companies, not necessarily closing attorneys, but escrow title companies, and we all know who they are. A lot of the national ones don't facilitate performance contracts, land contracts, contracts for deeds. I at least have to ask the question, because if I can find one that does all the other stuff that I want them to do and does this, oh my goodness, I'm going to hire them over someone that does all the other stuff but doesn't do this. Okay? There's a series of questions we use to interview the right person for the job of managing our transactions. And we ought to know all those questions. And those are just a few of, 2 or 3 of them. Keep this in mind when you deal with a closing company or a closing attorney. It's a relationship. And let me explain. Most people, if they can buy 1 or 2 houses a month, that would be friggin' awesome. Awesome! And it'd be exciting. I mean, think about it. $27,000 per transaction times 12. What is that? 324. What if you did that twice? 648,000. Gosh, you'd pay a lot of taxes. Maybe you don't want to do that. That was a joke. But so let's assume for a second you do 24 transactions a year. So you buy 24 houses. And let's assume for a second, so we know that's 24 closings, right? I mean, because you're going to buy them, so you got to close them. But you want to resell them, so you're not a buy and hold person, okay? You're going to resell them. So now you have the purchase side, and you have all that stuff, all that closing, because you're the buyer, you're excited, and you're more excited because you're going to resell it. That's the closing that you're going to make all your money. So you have 48 transactions with this person a year. There's only 52 weeks. So that means every week, pretty much, minus the holiday weeks and minus the vacation weeks, that kind of stuff, every week you're talking to this person. But our closings take 60 days. So let's call that, I know it's more than 8, but let's call it 8 weeks. So I have 8 transactions going at all times with the same person. Understand how many different conversations you're going to have with this person. So you're going to call Mary Jane up about 123 Apple Street that is just going great. Man, she did everything correctly. She's on top of it. There's nothing wrong with it. And you're so happy with her. And then about 2 o'clock that same day, you get a call from someone that says, man, Mary Jane down there is not doing the stuff on this other escrow on 123 Banana Street. So you call Mary Jane up and say, Mary Jane, what's going on Banana Street? Well, in the morning, you had a great conversation. You were applauding her for getting all this stuff done on Apple Street. Now in the afternoon, you're calling her and saying, hey, what happened to Banana? Think about that. So understand that these are relationships, and you better get along with your closing company, your closing person. If you don't get in that relationship. If there's even the slightest hesitation that you can't get along with this person, that their ethics and their morality isn't set at the same level that yours is, don't get in the relationship. Because you're going to talk to this person more than your spouse, if you're married, more than your girlfriend, boyfriend, if you have that kind of relationship. You're going to talk to this person a lot. I don't even care if you have a transaction coordinator that is the go-between between your voice and their voice or their ears. You're still going to hear about these conversations that's going and taking place because you're managing your business. And man, you guys better have a great relationship, because if not, it's going to go sideways. You're going to get frustrated. And I can tell you, when you have 80 deals going at one time with someone, man, talking about rigid conversation. Wow. So just understand that relationship is highly, highly critical to have a good relationship with. Hope I helped. That was fun. I'm going to close with reminding everybody, keep marketing. Market. Now, we got to have these daily deal questions if you guys want to have daily deal answers. Not daily deal questions. Podcast questions if you want to have podcast answers. You can tell I'm getting old when I start talking about two subjects at the same time. One more thing, besides the fact that the Academy is open, and if you want to learn how to buy houses for profit the way we do it, sign up. We have a forum over at buysellfixflip.com, and it's starting to get some activity, so go on over there. You have some questions you want to ask the community, and we look forward to you guys doing that. If you want to chat about how to extend and make your career better, let me know, and we'll set up a little chat call and get you going. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.